A very good afternoon to everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the 16th edition of India Digital Summit, Supercharging Startups, organized by Internet and Mobile Association of India. The summit is supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Niti Aayog. I'm your host for this session, Ayushi Mittal from IAMAI. Welcome to the panel discussion on high quality journalism in digital era. We would like to thank our digital financial management partner EaseBuzz, conversational messaging partner Gupshup, session partner GoQuick, gold partners Manorama Online, Blink Digital and Yellow.ai, and silver partner ShareChat. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce you all to Govindraj Ethiraj, founder Boom, who will moderate today's discussion. Joining us today, we have a great set of leaders. Please welcome Bharat Gupta, CEO, New Media Business, Dainik Jagran, TK Arun, Senior Journalist, and Biju Alias, Content Head on Manorama. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions, the selected few of them in the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Govindraj.
Thank you, Ayushi. The discussion today is about high quality journalism in the digital age. So this is it's an interesting question or a poser depending on how you look at it, because as many things, it all depends on, or rather, as they say, where you sit depends on where you stand. So I'm more of a independent digital organization guy. The panelists around me come more from large media organizations or hybrid, as the case may be. So each of them would have a slightly different look at it, but I think where it converges is largely optimistic, is the sense I've got, at least from our earlier conversation. So what are we talking about? And I'll also outline the format as we go along. One is, of course, is there high quality journalism in a digital era? More importantly, can you practice high quality journalism? Does this unique set of environmental opportunities allow you to actually build new products and new ways of creating and practicing journalism than before? Uh, if not, are you actually a prisoner of this new consumer set who make you essentially do and deliver what is most appealing to the largest or the lowest common denominator, as the case may be? And in all such cases, they are always outliers. So what are the outliers doing and using the digital age as an opportunity, as a true opportunity to practice good journalism? So those are some of the things that we can talk about. And this is a conversation. It's not a Q&A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask each of our panelists to speak for about 3 or 4 minutes on how they view this theme and how they approach it, and how they look ahead when we talk about high quality journalism and the practice of high quality journalism, and most importantly, the need for high quality journalism at a time like this. So let me go with TK Arun first, and then Bharat, and then Biju, who've all been introduced. And like I said, 3 to 4 minutes each. Just give us a broad sense on how you are viewing this topic, post which we'll kick off a conversation. It's over to you, TK.
Hi. I think it is entirely possible to have high quality journalism in whichever medium you work in. Now, the question is, uh, are you able to differentiate your voice as a high quality journalist from the noise that surrounds you and threatens to drown you out? Is there a mechanism for people to access high quality journalism when it exists and differentiate it from so-called self-styled pundits who are not professional journalists but have an opinion and are very good at articulating it online, and that is amplified by social media? Now, I want to make one thing very clear. There are limits to the utility of a citizen journalist. A journalist is a professional, just like a doctor or a lawyer is a professional. You might have lots of opinion on how to combat COVID or how it should be treated and all that, but you're not a doctor, right? If somebody catches the disease, they will consult a professional doctor. Similarly, you have to recognize that a journalist is a professional with a specialized skill. Now, it's not just that he is able to write, he's able to access information which is relevant to people, and he is able to verify that piece of information, cross-verify it from multiple sources. He is able to put it in context after judging the plausibility of the information and the relevance of that information to the audience. He is able to cross-verify it, he is able to put it in context and then present it to his audience. Now, this requires years of practice. You build up networks through which information flows to you. You have contacts in very many different kinds of circles, in political circles, in bureaucratic circles, in corporate circles, and you are able to correlate all these kinds of inputs and come out with something that will provide relevant input to your reader. Now, digital journalism actually makes it possible to enhance your impact, to enhance how you present your views. For example, it should be possible for you to have a combination of audio, pure audio, or audio visual, and print all in digital media. Now, do we really utilize that fully? Does any platform fully utilize it? Some do, but most don't. Now, I mean, it is a limitation of the individual journalists and the platforms that work with them that we are actually putting this capability that is at your disposal to the fullest extent possible. But I think it is definitely, I think the era of very productive, high quality digital journalism is only starting, and this will only improve as we go forward. The only issue to which I have no solution is how to distinguish quality journalism from the noise that threatens to drown it out most of the time. That's for my opening remarks.
Okay, thank you for that, TK. I just have a quick question before I come to Bharat. You mentioned the concept of citizen journalism, but why do you feel that there is a, I mean, definitional problem here? I mean, for instance, when we say digital journalism, does that mean citizen journalism? Because, or is it somehow because you feel that most people are confusing the two?
Yeah, a lot of people do confuse. I mean, it is possible for a citizen to actually report an event. There's an accident in the locality. Something happened nearby. You are able to report it. There
Right.
is a problem for which the local government has been unable to find a solution. You report that. That is fine. But when it comes to, we tend to have flooded with opinion, a whole lot of things, which sometimes are crass and therefore can be rejected. Sometimes are not crass, but they are misguiding the reader because they are not fully informed with the background, the context, and the possibilities of that piece of information. So there it requires a professional journalist actually to decipher what the worth of a piece of information is. And citizen journalists are not really able to do that. That is
Right.
my only problem with citizen journalists.
Okay, Bharat, it's over to you.
Thank you, Govind, for the session. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think, Govind, it's very interesting time now. So if we quickly look back in the evolution of internet in 2000s, early 2000s, it was all about just email, communication, and research when the net began. In 2010, it evolved into discovery, entertainment, and services. And now when we are interacting, it is more about interactive communities, purpose driven, and more virtual. And the whole set of audience has changed in between. So today in India, at least more than 65% of the population is under 35. We are the second largest internet population globally with just 50% penetration and only 600 million internet users. So what does a great content truly mean? And I think coming from the definition itself, the role of journalism has always been and will always be to create a positive impact. So, what is the impact of content and technology on society, on business environment, on digital ecosystem? Are we so we need to define the purpose. While the art of producing the content has always existed in India across the world with the traditional houses or independent writers or authors. But I think with this whole evolution of technology, the science of understanding and producing great content is what needs to be worked on. So it is important that with the whole democratization which is happening through digital, the content serving is becoming more and more focused. It is about understanding who's your customer, where is he or she coming from, what do they want to read. Try and understand these cohorts and then help them with a purposeful content is just not article for me today anymore. Content can be a great video, a great audio podcast, or a written article as well. But it is more importantly, I think it is a means to define or address a purpose. at a particular time. So I think in our quest to grow, we need to understand and identify that audience and the purpose. And the only way we can do that is by, I think, as I mentioned, introduce a lot of science in terms of data-driven dashboards, which can help us to decipher these audiences. It is so interesting, and understand what is the new India searching for, where are the need gaps, how can we solve that problem, right? And finally, I would say. I think it is all about a very universal thing that the learning never stops. We need to continuously upskill ourselves with the new tools and technology to understand our audiences better and use the right tools to serve them better. Thank you, Gaurav.
Okay, a quick question, if I can add that right away. So when you talk about purpose, and that's a very important thing. So now, as someone who represents both worlds, which is the physical Jagran and the digital Jagran, how do you see purpose differently? And is it the same purpose that was, let's say, laid down many decades ago when the group started? Is there a shift because in the digital world is different? How are you viewing that?
So I think, Govind, that's an important question. The purpose for us as an organization has always remained the same. That is to empower the society with knowledge, information, and point of view. Right, and we've always been committed to the cause of factual and credible content. Now, with the new age content which is coming in, you'll be surprised that out of the 600 million internet users, 50% of these new users were added in last 5 years alone. They're very new to the medium, and which has given, and because of their limited understanding about the media itself or the literacy, which we call as media literacy around internet, that has given a rise to a lot of misinformation. So I think the a very creative, or I would say a very scientific layer which we have added to the whole organization transformation is the fact checked unit of the whole group, right? And where we are also trying to use a lot of data science and along with the forensic approach, if I may say, to try and identify these points of misinformation and come out with a more truthful version. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And the other big change which has happened is that the internet content is more real time. And when we talk about traditional medium, there was a lag. So now, I think in growing age and time, there is a volume of content which is coming in, and there are a lot of episodes which are getting generated by the minute. Billions of people are connected. Like today, we have more than 4.8 billion users who are uh, online, right? So the whole way information is being consumed or discovered has changed. There has been a big transformation. So how do we keep these factors in mind? And that is where the transition of the traditional newsroom is also very important to enable and empower our teams internally with the right tools and dashboards. So, for example, both Google and Facebook have very, very strong programs in terms of GNI or Facebook journalism, which are enabling the transformation of older newsrooms into adapting these technologies to understand audiences better, to understand content consumption better, and equip them with this information to
Right.
cater to the new society. Yeah.
Right. Right. Thanks for that, Bharat. Biju, it's over to you.
Thanks, Govind, and a happy new year to all of you. And before I start, I'll start with a comment from one of my former colleagues. This has happened a few years back when I was about to leave print journalism for digital journalism. His comment was this: "What good can come from digital media?" It's like that Bible statement, "What good can come from us?" Right? So I was shocked. Then he said the reasons for his this reaction was he said there are hundreds of reasons for this. Years later, I mean, the same thing, these same issues continue to on digital media. Uh, the first thing actually, Bharat and even TK said the same thing. The peddling misinformation is one of the prime reasons for the digital media losing its credibility. This has been happening and it's continuing. Uh, if you quote one Vishwas news report, which say they had checked almost 8,000 news items. 40% of them were about COVID-19 misinformation. 40% of out of almost 8,000, and another 40% is about falsehood about personalities. Another 20% is quotes and edited images being used. So this 8,000 is nothing actually. What they did at Manorama also, we run a column every week which carries fake viral news stories. The title itself is all viral is not real. So which talks about a lot of fake stuff and exposing the truth behind each article. And the number of such dubious content is increasing. And as TK said, and Bharat also talked about this democratization of this thing, news, and anyone with a mobile phone is turning out to be journalist. This is a huge issue. That this has actually made the journalist job tougher. People without any knowledge about journalism or cross-checking facts and the fundamentals of journalism, they don't know, but still they're posting stories and facts are twisted to suit their purposes, and these things are happening. And even readers and media houses are also in a confusion what to do with this, how to tackle this situation. And for me, journalism is the same in print or digital. The standards are same. The quality standards should also be maintained that way for print and digital. There should not be any difference for that. In fact, the bar should be a notch higher for digital because the scope for error in digital is much, much higher. With the technology, you can manipulate things so easily in digital. So the standards should be much higher for that. Legacy media houses always have a system of checks and balances in place, but a lot of newcomers in digital are yet to implement standard procedures before clicking the publish button. And over stress on the page views is making several websites to go soft on quality check. On several occasions, desperation to grab attention is the reason for suspicious content go unchecked. And my suggestions are that media houses must invent a mission against fake news. And there should be articles, videos, podcasts exposing the fake and also teach the readers how to fact check a suspicious content. There are hundreds of tools available now, as Bharat said, Google's, today's imaging, and all the systems. It's there. People should know, the readers should also know how to use them, how to find the fake stuff, so that the credibility can be restored. All newsrooms also should have, nowadays, traditional newsroom is over. It's like converged newsroom, and it's like a newsroom for digital, print, everything together working. So those newsrooms must have fact-checking teams, and basic journalism rules should be strictly adhered to. These are the points I want to make in the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's pick up on some of the points, and TK, let me come back to you. So, our theme is high quality journalism in the digital age. So we're not just saying practicing journalism, we're not just saying journalism against misinformation, but we're saying high quality journalism. Is that a different definition? Because high quality journalism is the need of the hour, regardless of medium. And does the medium help in this case? Is the medium a hindrance? Is the medium only distorting what we are trying to do? TK?
No, medium doesn't distort. See, where journalism has been described as the fourth estate of democracy is because it plays a very unique role. Information is mediated across layers of power, hierarchies of power. This could be political power, it could be commercial power, it could be other forms of social power. When you report on the government, you are reporting on very clear different layers of power, right? This is the state power, which has to be accountable to the people. So, if you are a business journalist and reporting on the doings of a particular company, you are mediating information between that company and its consumers, between that company and its shareholders. Possibly, you're also mediating information between that company and the people who lend money to it, or or otherwise financial exposure to that company. So in this, the company is more powerful. So the journalist has to report news in such a way that the news that filters through from the company to the people allow that power difference to be not just mediated, to be uh, truncated to the extent possible. Of course, they play different roles. The management of the company plays a different role from the shareholder or the consumer. But to the extent the shareholders' rights are not breached, there is no insider trading. If there is insider trading, you should report on insider trading, right? Things like that. If the government is not doing what it's supposed to do, what it promised to do, they are going wrong, then you have to use that popular phrase, you have to tell truth to power. Now, this is the key part of journalism, which I call it journalism, of being able to mediate information between different layers of power. And it's only one way. Those in power, they need feedback from the other people, those who are at a lower level of power, right? That also has to be credible, reliable, and it should make sense. So in this, being able to mediate between different layers of power requires a very, as I said, high quality journalism. That is the basic essence of high quality journalism. You have to make sense. You don't just report any piece of information. It must be something that helps to mediate information so that you are able to levelize that power differential to the extent possible. Second thing, Bharat talked about different specialized audiences and being able to cater to different audiences. Now, this is something about which I think we require a nuanced view. Democracy exists, functions, because there is a shared public discourse. If there is no shared public discourse, but there are segmented discourses, and I listen in only to the points of view to which I am partial, I refuse to come into contact with any point of view which is different from mine, or to come in contact with a fact which will question my prejudices, then there is no common shared discourse, and that will undermine democracy. So while it is important to cater to different segments of our audiences, it is also important to maintain a certain commonality so that everybody has access to certain kinds of shared elements of a public discourse, which will allow people to uh, understand that there are points of view which are different from the ones they might hold, that there are facts which will not neatly fit into a particular framework that you're used to or you're comfortable with. I think these two parts are also very important for meaningful, high quality journalism. Now, technology is not a hindrance. Technology doesn't in any way hinder, probably it can actually help it, provided it is used that. But the real problem with technology is the sheer volume of content that comes on the media and the lack of ability that people have to discern what is valid and what is not valid. And here, I think platforms like Bharat or like professional newspapers, who have a reputation for validating information and putting out credible information. I mean, Manorama, for example, can do that. I'm very happy that Biju said that we need to warn people against the existence of fake news. So if mainstream media platforms take this on as a main job, then I think people will increasingly rely on editorially validated news sources and the rest. And I think that's a very important part of high quality journalism in the
Right.
digital age.
Right. Okay. So, Bharat, this raises an interesting question, right? So, you have X amount of resources, and you made an interesting point. You're saying out of the 600 million consumers, 300 million have come in the last 5 years, and they are essentially exposed to stuff which they don't even know whether it's true and might be tending to believe. So, the job for people like us who are on the other side is to first educate, to fight misinformation, and to really try and level the playing field before even doing anything above it. So then, how do you, as a media executive, apportion resources? I mean, and how does high quality journalism get the resources it needs? Because to me, it appears that a lot of all this is really firefighting, for which we have no choice.
So I think Govindraj, that's an ongoing journey, I would say. And I think the important point is to establish your North Star. And often when we, as we spoke about earlier once, that the medium has a great luster to defocus you. So either you are going after the scale that I want to produce content which becomes instantaneously viral and I'll get a lot of page views, but is that sustainable long enough? Or you want to just do high quality content, right? And where the chances are also that you might not be able to reach out to these newer audiences and explain your point of view better. So I think the important point over here to realize is that how do we learn to talk in the language the listener is ready to listen in? So when I say that, so if you're talking to a millennial who is just 18 years old and they are now consuming news just through 7, 8 lines of information along with an image, either we can continue to disperse the whole fact that no, they are rubbish and they don't understand news, or we can acknowledge that they are the new growing power of India, and we have to learn and ice crack the way we can communicate more effectively with them, right? And this is where we have to balance continuously, and that is why when I said audience segmentation, I clearly meant that do you want to cater to a specific age group or a gender or something, so that you can learn to listen to them and then talk to them in their own language. The other important thing is the role of data science over here, Govindraj, and uh, we did a very interesting exercise, and we realized that content is finite. It's not something that we can keep on producing and producing. So it is finite. You have limited resources in terms of people, money, talent, and everything. So we reached out to applied for a program, and along with Mighty Hub and Google News Initiative, we went in for a data lab wherein we created a dashboard to identify what kind of content is getting consumed how effectively. So the power of the medium is instantaneous feedback. How do I use that feedback to design our content better? And I'm assuming, with the caveat that all of us are out here to produce factual and credible content. The point is, how beautifully can we or how effectively can we portray our story, right? So there is this interesting feature called ROSA architecture, which is optimize, stop, amplify, or recirculate, right? So all the articles which were coming under the heading stop, we actually learned over a period that this is not the way to write stories, or this is the right way to use the headlines, stuff like that. What is working, not working, and that helped us to free a lot of bandwidth towards high quality content production. Because at the end of the day, high quality to us, everyone can have a different definition. But for me, high quality content is a content which can help me to discover new audiences, engage them effectively, retain them effectively, all under the vision of inclusive and progressive India.
Right. And let me ask you a business model question. So as you look back now, I mean, digital is not a new thing. I mean, big or small, everyone's been now in it for at least a decade. I mean, in a substantial way, and then even longer. What's the real metric of success here, or what are the real metrics of success as you look back, particularly from your own, let's say, as an organization that already has a very clear definition and a vision which has held for so many decades?
I think success is very time dependent, and it would be a function of the period through which you are going in. And so if I talk about last year when the pandemic first hit us as a country, and at that time there was a lot of desolation, there was a lot of people were losing jobs, there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of different things were happening, businesses were failing, and we came out with three simple series. The first series was all around hope, because we realize that the fundamental feeling of a humanity is being positive. You have to have hope if you want them to do anything else. And then we started going out and we started identifying positive examples of people who were fighting the situation in a great way, and not only fighting but contributing to reduce the impact of COVID on their own societies, localities, and stuff. And then we created a pipeline of stories and presented it. And then similarly around heroes and around a lot of different things. But what truly made us feel happy is that when 3 of such initiatives out of the 5 which we took last year won awards at one of the industry platforms. So, that gives you that pride that not only they were recognized by the people on ground, not only they produce page views and other matrices which are byproducts, but in true sense, these initiatives were impactful. And that is what journalism is all about, creating that impact.
Okay. Biju, do you want to come in on that? I mean, you're also running Manorama on Manorama. It's an online. What's a metric of success for you? I mean, from outside, the perception would be that the only metric of success is page views, which leads to Google ads or other ads being served on your platform, and the revenue that you get from that.
Look, Govind, the success, if you talk about revenue only, the advertising journalist, that is not the only point. If you talk about Manorama online, the content we, as journalists, the content we produce, basically, I am part of that content team. So if it is reaching and if it is serving the purpose as a journalist or as a story or whatever content you, whether it's video or stories, text or podcast, whatever, if it is serving the purposes and if it is being read by people and if it's making an impact, I consider it as a success. And revenue is not the only thing. Of course, revenue is there. That's a marketing team. Definitely, they have to make revenue. But if the content is right and if content is doing the right things, then naturally the revenue will follow. That's what I feel. So
When we talk about high quality journalism, do you as the online arm focus? I mean, is that something that you can practice with the same amount of resources as your, let's say, your traditional newspaper or even television arms? I mean, really to go back to that purpose and delivery of purpose, is it the same for all platforms?
when I came into digital from print, and most of my time was in print, and when I came to digital, I thought same way it will do the same. The same amount of resources will do for digital also, but no, it is like much high. I mean, I never imagined this thing happen, but digital needs lot more resources, and the role of technology is much higher. And in print, it's like I never bothered. When I was in print, I never bothered about technology at all because there was hardly anything for us to do. But in digital, it's like technology is huge and almost 50, maybe more than 50%. And resources definitely we need. Look, the fact-checking team, the print journalist, every journalist is a trained journalist. He knows what is the story, how to write it, and he knows this. In digital media, the fact-checking team itself needs a lot of people because everything, the photographs, the videos, the content coming in, that everything has to be checked. The fact-check team itself is a huge team there. Whereas in print, every journalist is equipped with this. But technology, and definitely technology is helping us for that, but still resources we need much more in digital.
Okay, so let's go back to the primary question. We all agree that we want to practice more high quality journalism. We now know what the challenges are. We've discussed that. We've talked about challenges of being heard. We've talked about the challenges of resources, of audiences, and what their desires are as they come into the consumption market, so to speak. So how do we, as we look ahead now, and I'll come back with the same theme to the other panelists as well. How do we redefine or in a way realign ourselves with this new market and yet practice what we want to practice as professional journalists and really doing what we are supposed to do, which includes speaking truth to power, as you said, TK?
So let me give you an example of high quality digital journalism from the recent past. The Wire did a story on Tech4, which is a technology platform used by the BJP's IT cell to intervene in social media and sort of mold the narrative. It can generate thousands of handles and post on a particular thing so that the trend on social media is set by this particular app and those who wield that app. This was exposed by two digital journalists for The Wire. They spent nearly 2 years using technological tools to analyze the information they had and to finally come out with the story. Now, this is a similar or greater resources are available to mainstream media houses. They did not do it. They did not devote the resources to it. It was this young startup which struggles to survive based on donations, which actually did this. So high quality journalism is certainly possible in the digital age, and you are able to use digital tools to achieve this high quality journalistic standards. So that's a very positive development, and it's an inspiring example of how things can actually shape up. And the other thing, how can we actually drown out the noise from the real signal? I think it will help if social media are recognized as mainstream media in terms of their responsibilities to the public. Today, you have the situation where social media can get away with writing, posting anything, relaying any information, transmitting any message on the specious ground that this is not their content. It is user generated content and they are not responsible for it. But are they really all that neutral a platform? They moderate content, both Facebook and Twitter now moderate content. We know that. Not only that, that algorithm sorts out the news. They create feeds tailor-made to suit particular readers. So they are doing an editorial function in categorizing news, channeling news, sorting them different fields. How are they very different from traditional media? Why shouldn't they bear the same responsibility not to have libel, to not provoke violence, to not provoke enmity between groups that mainstream media has? Now, not that mainstream media is a shining example of living up to these norms, especially not TV. But why shouldn't they bear a similar responsibility? If we regulated social media to bear the same responsibility to society as mainstream media have, then I think to a certain extent, a lot of the damage will be removed.
Right.
They will
Okay.
themselves exercise caution in preventing this from kind of information from being flooding the platforms.
Right. Okay. Bharat, how do you look ahead as a hybrid organization and managing resources, putting your best resources in, getting high quality journalism out, and using all the benefits and the opportunities that the digital age offers?
Yeah. So, I think it's very within our organization. I'm thankful to my CEO, company CEO, and editor in chief, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, and we've had a very clear discussion around same. And what we need, the strength which the traditional medium gets to the table is the legacy, the strong footprint which it has created in last 75 years across the Hindi heartland. And but what needs to be done, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to digitally create a newsroom which understands these modern dynamics, audiences, and the requirement of content science, if I may use the term. And the whole idea is to create maybe champions of change, that team of great 150, 200 journalists who are empowering the new newsroom. And through way of innovation and best practices, they create a module which will help the parent company journalist team also evolve into this change, into this world. And as you would understand, it's this transformation into the digital working, I would use the term, or digital environment, because it is not just buying a tool and putting it in company like a CMS or something like that. It is the whole mindset. It is about thinking around numbers. It is thinking about audiences. So this is going to take us a lot of time to equip all the 200 districts where we have our operations in terms of news. So we have planned it out that in next 5 years, this is how we want to do. But apart from news, I think you will also be interested to know, Govindraj, that if we have today 112 million users who are coming to us online, more than 50% of them are coming to the newer brands which we have created digitally. So, for example, a brand created for women called Har Zindagi. And when we launched that 2 years, 3 years back, we realized that the uh, while the male is to female population ratio is same, or the literacy rate in India is same, but when it came to internet consumers, there was a strong gender divide. Or 70% of internet users in India were males and only 30% female. And then we realized through our research that there is not enough content to cater to women, and we launched our Zindagi. So why I'm sharing this example is that the path is very difficult, but once you get your North Stars right and you try to empower the teams with the right tools and technology, everything is possible. But you have to be focused.
Right. And, we were discussing earlier, and, this whole thing of we can't be everything to everyone, and there is a
Yes.
need for focus. How is that going to play out? And do you see I don't think conflict may be too strong a word, but do you see any dissonance with what TK says that, in a democracy, I mean, there should be shared discourse, as
Yes.
compared to, let's say, maybe a slightly more marketeer's way of looking at it, saying that I have to segment my audience, otherwise I'm not going to be successful.
So, absolutely, there has to be, and that is why in our vision and mission for JNM is that producing factual and credible content that empowers New India through knowledge, information, and point of view towards inclusive and progressive society. So now this is the fundamental vision that binds all our different products, and this is where the macro perspective of the India or organization comes in. That this is what we have to do collectively. So for when we talk about education, it is empowering 18 to 24 with the right kind of information to select their careers, and depending upon that, selecting their education, stuff like that, or women, or news and stuff like that. But at the same time, we cannot omit the power of localization. And as the way world has always been and is growing, people often first want to know what is immediately happening around them, and that is the core fundamental of I would say any kind of content which anyone wants to consume. So I think localized content will also have a very important role to play, and hence again I would say it is not this or that, but it is balancing, and it is balance, and this balance between the two is also dependent upon evolution of society. So right now India is very diverse, so you have to be very clear that what do you want to do for emerging India who have just come online, who are a part of that non-metro internet users, right? Because all the majority of the internet users are more focused on entertainment. They're more focused, their habits, their media consumption is highly evolved or very different. Whereas the new users who are coming in, and if I talk about statistics, 9 out of 10 new internet user in India will be consuming language. So it is for us as news organizations, it is our responsibility to empower them and enable them with the right choices and news which will help them to climb the ladder of life, and not just become another platform of video or something like that, which is, entertains them. There's too much of entertainment. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. No, thanks for that. I think that's a very elaborate and insightful response. So, a couple of quick questions as we head towards the close. And Biju, why don't you take this one? In today's connected and digital world, what are the new best practices to balance speed of delivery versus quality of content?
Sorry, Govind, what's I didn't get you. Sorry.
The question is, in today's connected and digital world, what are the new best practices to balance speed of delivery versus quality of content?
Look at in the digital, there are a lot of technologies, tech tools which can help you to deliver content very fast. But the thing is, most of the organizations don't use it properly. That's one reason. And uh, as I said, every newsroom, if they follow the strict practices of journalism, they can do the quality check before it goes to the readers. And if they follow the traditional journalistic rules, and if they use the modern tools to check them and cross check and fact check them, then I think the content quality will improve, and that is the way we should go.
Okay, TK, I mean, last question, and then I'm coming to Bharat for a quick 1 minute sum up. You know, we are a large country, we have many languages, and there are thousands or tens of thousands of media outlets, whichever way you define it. And that doesn't even include all the social platforms and everything that's on that. How do you make yourself heard? I mean, if you're a young journalist who's watching this, should I go away feeling like it's a tough world out there? Maybe I shouldn't even get into it, or is this opportunity, and is there need for me to get into this and make a mark?
I think, as an English language journalist myself, I am aware of my limitation in accessing the largest audience in this country. But it is my hope that many journalists who write in Indian languages might actually read or access what I produce. And they will be informed by what I say. And if they find anything useful, they will actually relay that to their own audiences in turn. So that is the way I hope it will work.
Okay.
I don't think it's entirely hopeless. Yeah.
Bharat, last word. So as you look ahead, I know you're optimistic, but how do you see even 2022? I mean, this is, as we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, you talked about stories of hope in pandemic. We are back in pandemic. Again, there will be shifts in the way people consume information, news. The challenge of COVID and misinformation is huge and continues to be huge even as we enter the third year. How are you seeing yourself and your organization commit to high quality journalism? And I mean, use this to sum it up and then we'll close.
Yep. So I think Govindraj, for me personally, and I'm very, very optimistic about the days to come because despite of the situation, which is truly very sad, I think uh, from a sheerly from a content perspective, we are in the best of times because of technology. Because of pandemic, India is certainly 5 years ahead, and people have adapted the medium very, very quickly. We are truly committed to the cause, and you'll be surprised to know that the team expansions which we are planning are around a lot of data scientists. And for me, the three important pillars of content which we are trying to develop within the organization is one, in order to everyone says factual content. So in order to develop factual and relevant content, how do you introduce data driven, research oriented, and consistent pipeline of content? So when I say data driven, more of data informed, like the tools and dashboards, right? Then the second pillar is credibility. How do you introduce specialists? Today, all of us can be the days of being jack of all and master of none are gone. So we can be only good at one thing or two things. I cannot be a great political editor, come tech editor, come automobile editor, and stuff like that. So I have to decide that
You forgot
what
an
am I?
expert on COVID.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to decide ki who am I, right? And then for everything else, you might be a great planner, but try to involve specialists. So if you're writing about COVID, after your research, try to get a great doctor or an organization come and join you in that story to increase the credibility. And finally, I think empowerment, whatever we do, no matter how beautifully or we want to impact the society, till the time you are able to amplify your content across the right platforms at the right time, all the great effort around content is lost. So how do you use the right kind of technology and SEO or social practices to amplify the right pieces will play a critical role. So I think going forward, these the pillars of content, technology, and policy will decide a fate of a lot of other many companies in India.
Right. Right. So thank you, Bharat, TK, and Biju. The future, the immediate future is very exciting. But I think to master and harness this future will also take not just the practice of traditional high quality journalism, but a very strong and powerful understanding of the digital universe, including all the tools, technology, and the data science that goes with it, in order to essentially create a more empowered, to borrow the same term from Bharat, empowered citizenry. So on that note, thank you very much, IAMI and my panelists for this conversation. It's been great, and I do look forward to more on that. And it's also back to you, Ayushi.
Thank you everyone for such an engaging discussion. A special thanks to all our panelists and our moderator for being here today and making this possible. Another thank you goes to all our attendees who are here with us today. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.